I'm just really wanting to say I love our energy church. I like calling it that, even though it's sort of reclaiming the word church because, there's, you
There's
know,
lots of churches though. I will say I spent my whole life, like at least, or I'm 43 now, at least 30 years being like, can I find a church that fits me? I want to go to church. I really want to go to church. And I think Jesus is a really cool dude. And I think a lot of people are doing really amazing things in their churches, but they just haven't aligned because really, I just want to talk about the big picture of the universe.
well,
Like
here we are. Energy church. I,
energy church,
I
Sunday
love it.
morning.
I love it. Um, I think
Sounds
it's a lot of fun.
fantastic.
I think maybe more people would want to come in and have conversation with us. Maybe,
I mean, we probably could open a Zoom link and invite people into Energy Church some Sunday,
okay. I
the
think
first
we
Sunday
could.
of the month or something. I think
Yeah,
that
I think so. And as it's developing, I can see it. I can see it developing into something kind of cool. I enjoy doing these conversations with you. Missy K and I are getting into an interesting human design discussion right now about the energy centers and how some of these things may be affecting us. And so we were talking about the ajna, which is I do the little triangle because it's this one, right? It's is it, or is it the second one?
this one.
The second one? Oh, the third
I
eye.
think this one is here, and
And
this
this
one's
one
the
is
second
here.
one. Yeah,
And there, somewhere in there, the third eye is part of that, right? The ajna.
yeah.
Okay. So,
And let me preface this just a little bit with I was sharing to Tammy about my day yesterday, with all of my energy all over the place. And one thing Tammy re-identified that we've talked about many times between each other is my ability to kind of trust and flow with the world to a certain degree. And my thought when Tammy's like, oh, but my mind always keeps coming in and being like wishy-washy about these choices, like I'm not always sure. And so we were just playing around with like, well, what my theory is her define Anja, whereas mine's open and your head's open.
oh, my
Your
head is
Anja,
open.
yeah, is
Okay.
not. And that's your thinking place. And so we were just talking about how, sorry, let me stop there. Anything else you want to add to that, Tammy?
Well, we were talking about following our energy signatures and how part of this experiment is trying to understand what are the cues and signals that help us understand what's a yes and what's a no when it comes to making choices or following, a new opportunity. Like how do we know? And now those people with that defined, which is the one that has the guttural yes and the no, that's your generators, right?
Yep,
Sacral.
your defined sacral.
They're a
Yep.
defined sacral. So if you ask them yes or no questions and they're just quickly tune into their body, they'll just quickly be able to say, uh-huh, uh-uh, uh-huh, uh-uh, yes, no. Whereas
And
in
can
most,
even work for an emotional authority
okay,
if
well,
they're aligned and in that place to receive and don't
okay,
have a need to trigger a wave.
okay. So we might need to unpack that a little bit more, but you and I are both emotionally defined. So what that means to me basically is that when I have a choice to make, I have to ride this wave of like the excitement at first, or like, oh my gosh, yes, that sounds amazing. And then maybe in a day or two, or maybe it's an hour or two, or maybe it's a month, depending on how big the decision is and how long lasting it is, the wave can be differing lengths. But let's say it's a decision about something coming 6 months from now. You get real excited, you're like, woo, and maybe you ride this high for a few days where you're like, yes, this is great. And you start planning and you get excited. And then
Yeah.
you move forward. And then you go to the down part of the wave where you're like, what was I thinking? This is going to cost too much. This isn't right. I don't know. La, la, la. And your brain, and then you go on this lower part of the wave. And then we're not supposed to make a decision or based on this emotional authority until we're back to a neutral space with it, where we're not on the high, high and we're not on the low, low, but we can see it from some sort of like neutral clarity, right?
Yeah. I would like to clarify a few things in there. There are three different types, like some that kind of roll in, some that like spike and come down, and some that like zigzag up and down. And that's just depending on what channel one has connected to your solar plexus.
Oh.
Um, it doesn't always trigger. Like sometimes you just come to a place of neutrality of like, here's the decision. I myself, my sun gate is the gate of mastery or the gate of enthusiasm. I do believe that sun gate provides, again, that's 70% of your energy that you put out into the world that's going to show up, that's going to provide some guidance with you. So, like yesterday, I was telling Tammy on a lot of things, like I had this excitement, but it was neutral excitement. It was lifting me up, it was making me happy. But it wasn't this like, I must go and do it. I must, like, there's excitement. I guess there's excitement, enthusiasm. I was in enthusiasm. There's excitement where it's like, I must get this done now, like let's go conquer the top of the mountain. And usually that means there's a trigger, an emotional trigger that says, hey, you have some awareness you need to come into about this whole aspect of what you are thinking is a good or not good choice. You don't know yet, and then you'll watch yourself kind of go up and down again, where it's like, oh, yep, absolutely not, cannot do it. But you still know, like, there might be a repulse. I think, at least for me, I would love to hear other people's emotional authorities. It's like a real need to like stay out of it. Eventually, though, it does come out to a place of neutrality where it's like, is this right for me? No, it's not. I'm just not being pulled into it anymore. Or yes, I really do want to come over and say yes. And I think that too is a question itself. Now, again, I'm speaking from my authority and my experience. And some of the answer too is in hindsight. We make a choice, and then in hindsight, we're like, oh, when I make this choice, then A, B, and C happens, or something else great happens as well.
We were talking, oh, because I said I was wishy-washy. So that's how it came up. And you linked it to the open head as well. Not just so the emotional authority is sort of to me a little bit wishy-washy, what we just talked about. Even though I think there's a knack to really feeling what the truth is for myself. But
I am actually linking it to your define anja, not your open head.
oh,
I'm linking it to that definition that you have in your aja.
okay.
And this goes back to the emotional, the solar plexus, but I want to start with the mind. You know, humans are amazing because we have this mind that can be creative, it can problem solve, and it can connect language to what's going on in our world. And
Mm-hmm.
because of these three things, the mind thinks it should be in charge of the whole world. So my theory, and this you're just going to have to sit on it and figure out if it's true or not. Maybe it is the defined open head could be there too, because we take in a lot of like what's around us. The mind is where the ego is, and the ego wants to be in charge. And the
Right.
ego is typically the one that's like, should you really be getting on YouTube and talking to people about human design and astrology? Do you really have that authority, Melissa? Do you? Like it will come in with that definition and try to talk you into one thing or the other. It might go the other way too, where it's like, I am the authority, I know all, and I will do all. More bolstered than it really should be.
Right.
So, but then as we talked about being an emotional authority, people think that we're allowing our emotions to guide our decisions. Is that it's not our emotions. Emotions are really just a concoction of chemicals that get lit up in our body, whether it's in the morning and we're getting a surge of cortisol, if it's because someone yelled at us at the checkout lane and all of a sudden we have another surge of cortisol at the wrong time of day, maybe a dopamine hit. Those are just awareness and feeling. Feelings are awareness. They're not something that guides anybody into what's the right decision. Now, society, on the other hand, says otherwise. Society constantly says, hey, what's your feeling about it? That's probably right. What's your mind say about it? That's probably right. What I think a big thing in human design is, so what is your body saying about it? Your body has that innate intuition to say what's right and what's not correct for you. And again, what's correct for you might be different for me, might be different for the cashier down the street. Maybe that quantum, that 55D, 50,
Hmm.
5D realm that we were talking about a few weeks ago that will help open the doors to say, what should we do next?
The body, what you're talking about is what I was kind of calling the body technology last time, because our bodies are this super intelligent technology. And what you're saying is, so emotions take you on a ride,
Mhm.
thoughts take you on a ride, they take you on some journey, and so do emotions, and they both have their place and their role. But you're saying that the body itself has your own personal key, your own personal energy frequency that you align with. And when you're aligned with that energy frequency, the rights and the yeses and nos are a little more obvious or clear, perhaps. At least I hope so. And at least I'm making that leap right now. But so where we connect with the quantum realm is, I don't know if well, let's just say this. Didn't Ra Uru say it was like a crystal, almost like in our body, that we have like
Mhm.
our own like sacred crystal that attracts
I
the
don't know if he said that, but I like it and I think we should use it.
Rudd. I don't know if it was Ra or Richard Rudd, but they talk about this basically, that energy signature is down to a crystal, like of our own inner crystal, I guess you could say. And
Everybody has their own dark crystal.
yes, we have our own like crystal, and that crystal is our energy signature frequency that we're like emitting, we're emitting that, and that's attracting to us, the things that line up with our energy alignment, whatever. I don't know. I'm kind of talking around in circles, but
Again, this is our inner compass
yeah.
that gives us direction. And again, sometimes it purposely gives us directions to things that are really challenging and hard. We're meant, we like many of us, at least this is my belief. Some people may not believe this. Many of us make contracts before we come down to say, hey, I got to do some learning here. I got to grow. I got to be more confident. I got to speak my mind. And so we set ourselves up in really tough situations where we have to overcome those things. And our inner compass will move us and guide us into there. There's the other aspect, I think, of the universe and the relationship that we have with the universe. 9 times out of 10, if we say something like, I'm done with drinking, I'm I'm done with toxic relationships, like it's almost gonna throw those things in our face to say, are you are? All right, let's really see how done you really are.
No
We
doubt,
hear
man.
you. We hear you, universe.
Oh
Let's
my
see
gosh.
if it's really done. And it's not a test, it's an offering to say, hey, this is exciting stuff. Let's let's work it out and make it happen for us. So
Yeah,
um,
yeah, yep. Is there a new way that we can hold this scenario, this situation? So the toxic relationship thing is resonating with me. There's people that come in and you say, why is this person dropped in my lap right now? Why is this person in my situation? And so to me, it's always it's a reflection back. So if you say like this person is in denial, like I see that in this person, this toxic person, they're in denial. They're not taking responsibility for their actions. They're doing things, they're harming people, and they don't see what they're doing. Okay. Well, where is that in me? Where am I in denial? Where am I unconsciously doing things so what we project out is really somehow mirroring something within ourselves, you know?
yeah,
It is uncomfortable, and that's uncomfortable because those are usually things that we don't want to admit about ourselves. They're things that I mean, if I'm in denial of something, it's because I don't want to admit it. Because it's embarrassing or it
that is the beauty of denial. It is a coping mechanism. Denial
right.
is a coping mechanism. So it's not helpful because it's not at the same time. Like now, it's like both sides of the coin could be the possibility of the denial, right? It really could be theirs that you're just seeing on an innate wisdom of like, oh wow, they're struggling in that denial, and it may not be yours, but it may be coming in and having you dig deeper.
Well, I think there is something about healing on the collective level. So like with him, I can't heal it within them. Like I can't force them to heal. I can't force them to see their denial. I can't force them to, take responsibility for themselves. But when I go into my own personal inventory of, well, where am I? Because you are going to find places where you're in denial if that's coming up so strongly in your life. I mean, I really think it is. And so,
I'll give that. Yeah.
and so when I'm able to go and say, okay, well, where can I forgive myself for the denials and where have I harmed and where have I done this? That when you start to heal that within yourself, that's the
Yeah.
best energy to contribute to that situation. Instead of
It's
just
the
looking at it
transfer.
as their problem, like this is your problem. No, it's communal. This is a problem of society. This isn't one person's problem, you know?
And I think what you just identified there, which is very beautiful, and I know as in the therapy world, it's something that we have to be really aware of, is the transference. When you're sitting there with people and you take on the transference of their problem, you're right. You were completely right in what you were saying of like, oh, that one just like pulled this one out now that I need to address. Like, I had it nice and tucked away in this beautiful little drawer. It just
Right.
moved out, and now I have to address it for sure.
Well, I think it depends on where these people are in your life. Like for clients and patients and stuff, it's easy to realize that this is just a transient like thing. But when it's family members or longer dramas that like go over time and generations, when there's like toxicity that it gets passed down from generation to generation to generation, and the person in your life that's the toxic person is a family member, there's like some other karmic like involvement going on as well. Like there's a deeper. So I think we're talking about like in what as a therapist, as a PT, I have to really have strong boundaries with my patients and their drama and not taking them on because that's a lot of baggage that I can't take on. I can't
Yep.
own their problems at all. But then there's other people in your life that are on an inner level of your like realms, like your social realms. They're closer to your home, like your family.
There's a very good possibility that's a spiritual contract that you made
Right,
with that person
exactly.
coming down and being like, all right, we're going to do this mess together one way or another. They may be the antagonistic part of it. Like, it may be their job to be
Yeah.
the asshole who comes in and pushes every single button until you finally learn how to make that boundary and
Yeah.
resolve that part within yourself to say, hey, here's the boundary, here's the strategy or thing that I need to do to be
Yeah.
whole. And with that, I think it's an important one to come to terms with, that when we finally make those aligned decisions for whatever it is, it could be cutting somebody else out of your life, it could be finding different ways to show up together. And again, maybe like once it's stepped over, you might say, oh, too much, going this way. There's lots of different ways to engage with people on what's right for you. But I think it's important to know that most likely you will still have a whole plethora of feelings and emotions that go. There's going to be grief that says, oh my gosh, I love this person so much, but this is hurting me as in my life. And so I have to cut the cord completely until I'm in another space or forever, you know?
Yeah.
Or, again, there might be happiness too. Like, wow, look at all this, this freedom and peace I'm experiencing in there
Yeah.
too, which of course may lead into like concern and guilt again of like, should I be feeling this way when there's just a lot of things that go in these circles of engagements. Wow, that was a lot of information.
That
A
was
lot of
so
explanation
so
for 20 minutes.
yeah, I'm gonna have to digest that for a while. And so I'm just really wanting to say I love our energy church. I